Today, I'm sure you hear a plethora of voices offering explanation, perhaps some optimism, but they are very divergent voices. This is not said critically, but I have read a report this last week which says now categorically within 2 years, COVID-19, what was that? Contrast that with a report which says we will have to live with COVID-19, most of us, for our lifetime. Who knows? Powerful reports. And in the midst of this, without being clever, the gospel remains supreme, truthful, and with great claim upon our life and upon our death. This morning we are turning to Luke's Gospel, chapter 16 and verse 19, to look at a story that Jesus told about a rich man and Lazarus. And just before that, he has criticized again the Pharisees because they want to justify, that is, they want to put right themselves in the way that they define. And they want to do that with the approval of men. And Jesus simply says, but my Father knows your hearts. Play all the games you like, say all you like, my Father sees your heart. In fact, what's exalted among men is an abomination in the sight of God. That's verse 14. And then we enter into this graphic imagery, the words of Jesus himself, not toned down, I'm sorry, I didn't mean that, but as a tremendous warning. And God has sent warning after warning throughout history for good. He's also shown that when warning hasn't been heeded, he has acted. And as we prepare for the second coming, which is the day which is great and it's terrible, the same day, he has sent word of preparation, called his church and his preachers to declare, get ready, get ready. And have we? You see, I'm sure like me, you live in circles where you talk a lot about the grace of God. But when we reduce the grace of God to fit our imagination, we have lost it. It was Dietrich Bonhoeffer in the concentration camp who said this about God's grace. It is free, always a gift, never cheap. Have we cheapened the gospel, the free gift of God to us? And the scripture is abundantly plain. The day of grace will close. The gate, the doorway, the opportunity of this day shall be no more. For Jesus will come, and the day of grace, as we understand it, will be complete. Now let's enter into this story that Jesus tells, and he does a contrast. Typical way of teaching. One man with great riches, great food. Bet that was nice. But it was fraught with danger. This is not a story against riches. But we do see in it the blindness that riches can bring. And at this poor man's gate was a man named Lazarus who would love just to have taken anything that was thrown out, but he never could in the story. And then this terrible image of the dogs providing a licking of the sores. We could see that as nursing, but actually in the context of the day, awful. Both men die. Well, of course, we have an appointment with death. The poor man dies, and he doesn't ask for this, but it's a beautiful picture of him being carried into the presence of the Lord, and he is placed alongside Father Abraham, our father in the faith. What a turnaround, because God positioned him there in his love and in his care, and he's there. And then the rich man dies and he doesn't go there. There's choice. He ends up in this, where we call it from the Old Testament, Hades, and please notice, in torment. Not a holiday club for those that don't love God. And he can see what happened to this man that he had ignored all his life. And he asks for mercy. He asks that Lazarus could be sent just to cool his tongue. He doesn't even ask to escape Hades. And in this picture, that's a request that's not possible, because the gulf is in. The judgment for salvation is assured. One went one direction, one went another. And he says, I'm in anguish. And you can notice the response to it. And then, as you read through, Lazarus believes, well, but Abraham, they have, if something would happen, it ends up with, if somebody should come back from the dead, then they will believe. And the point is, God has always spoken. God has spoken through the prophets. God has spoken through Moses and the law. And the people of God had a tendency not to listen. This is a day for listening. This is a day of preparation. This is a day to come back. And perhaps, again, in ministry, you've heard people say, when I was in the war, I was in a trench. I knew I was going to die. And I cried out to God, if you will get me out of here, I will serve you. And you know what I'm going to say. Some did. Some did not. No, Jesus warns because he's loving. Our responsibility today is to heed the warnings and pass them on. Let us prepare for the day when the day of grace is closed.